So we're back in this hypothetical situation. We've walked Brett through, my prospect Brett, through network marketing. He's totally on board. He gets it. And we've discussed an industry, and he actually was the one, if you noticed, that he kind of poo-pooed the other one and said, well, that doesn't make any sense. I can see myself doing health and wellness. After initially he said, well, I don't know if I can get passionate about it. So when you get good at this, you can actually kind of coach that person into answering your timeline for you, okay? So what I want to do is I want to take Brett through the next one. So we'll get back into role play, and the next one is the company. So Brett, I love it. You're on board with network marketing. You see how this can help you get back into the B quadrant tomorrow, right, or today. You understand the industry, and you've actually recognized yourself that health and wellness is going to be a huge industry. One, that you could get behind, but two, that that's where it's going, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. So within every network marketing, within direct sales, there's a lot of different network marketing companies. What I encourage you is to start doing your due diligence on a company. Now, these accolades and these criteria that I'm going to give you can be through any company. It doesn't necessarily have to be just in the network marketing industry, but since we're talking about network marketing, let's make sure that we kind of keep it there. But it would be true in anything that you're looking for. So the things that I really, really encourage you to look for are making sure that a company isn't fly-by-night. There's a lot of startup companies out there, and more than 95% of them fail within the first 2 to 3 years, if not the first 5 years. Doesn't mean that a startup company won't be successful, because IBM was a startup company, right? Apple was a startup company, and actually there's a company within direct sales, not my company specifically, that actually was the fastest company ever to $1 billion, right? Faster than Apple. So that gives a lot of credibility to our industry, right? I mean, a company that got to $1 billion faster than Apple. And so there are a lot of companies that you can choose. What I encourage you is to make sure that it's one that's been around. Now, the other thing is that some of these have already passed their maturation process. So every company has a growth stage, then they kind of flatline, and at this point they either do what? Most of them go like this, or most of them hopefully just eventually have another upswing. And so I encourage you to kind of look at it and objectively figure out which company is where. Are they going anywhere? Is there any room for growth, or are they kind of stagnant? Make sense?
It does. And
okay.
What's that point? How long?
Well, it depends on each thing, but again, remember that most companies fail within the first 2 years. Okay. And then after 5 years, if you can make it past 5 years, most likely that company is going to survive and thrive. Doesn't mean that they won't. I mean, you look at some of these companies I won't mention specifically, but they have management and they have CEOs do stuff that are not credible, and that whole company goes under. You might be able to think of one right now, right?
Right.
So yeah, typically look at one for maybe 5 to 7 years, just because that's outside of network marketing, and within network marketing, that's the average time when a company's going to survive.
I mean, does it make sense? I mean, if you could somehow guess right, if you could do your research and find the IBM while it's a startup or the Apple while it's a startup, I mean, isn't there a better opportunity there than, say, in joining Amway that's like 50 years old and has a bad name? I mean, just because Amway has survived this long, I was asking about them earlier, yeah, I guess it's risky that, you don't know if it's going to be the one to make it, but it seems like the best opportunity would be if you can find one of those companies.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Sure.
All right, perfect. So there were the two biggest shoe stores out there sent a rep from each different company. They sent them to Africa a while ago, and they wanted to get them to go do research to figure out if the market was going to be good or bad for them to send their new shoes. This first guy, they both fly on the plane together, they get off and they go their separate ways, wish each other luck. The first guy in this company calls back and says, nobody wears shoes here, don't send any shoes, there's no market, right? This other guy calls us back and said, nobody wears shoes here, send every single pair you have, the market is wide open, right? So that's just two schools of thought in the same exact situation. That make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
That's funny, yeah.
So, and let's go back to the real estate thing that you were talking about. Real estate's good, but right now it's not. It is. You can make money in anything and any time if you figure out the best way to do it. Follow the system with a few other things that we're going to talk about. Okay, a good product and a place that's going to pay you with a system and a team that's actually going to help you do that. So the answer is, it doesn't matter which company necessarily or where they are. It's, do you do the right things within that opportunity to actually make that work? Okay. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, I get it. And the other thing is, I don't want to get into investing, but remember we talked about the I? Yeah. Right? Eventually we want to be able to invest. My personal belief is go with companies that you know are already around, because yeah, you can make a lot of money if you hit it rich with a startup penny stock, But wouldn't you rather just go with something you know that's going to be around like a Costco or Walmart forever?
Yeah.
Now again, that's a whole different conversation, but that's just my personal opinion. Okay. But does that make sense at least?
It does. It
Okay.
does. And, you know, the other thing too is, um, I might be willing to take a little bit of a risk in the first attempt I would make, happens to go under, but
Sure.
I also have to think about, my family and stuff like that. And if I'm going to, I'll just be honest with you, Lane, if I'm going to do something like this, I want to make sure it's something that's going to be here 5 and 10 years from now because A, I wouldn't want to have to redo it, but B, I just want to make sure that my reputation's intact.
Yeah. And a couple other things, Brett. Reputation is huge, and that's something else you need to look at when looking at a company. What is their reputation? Not what do they say about it. What are other people in the industry saying about it? Okay. And if you look at the Carfax report, right? Carfax is an objective, independent look at the car's history. Make sense? Within direct selling and within network marketing, there are actually companies and publications that actually look at and help somebody like you that making an educated decision look at some of the companies that you can choose. So I would encourage you to do that. I have some of them here, my iPad, and I will show you some independent things for you. But I want to make sure that you understand that I'm doing this as a way to help you make the best decision for you and your family.
Yeah, okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So get third-party opinion about, that's another kind of criteria when you're looking for a company. And then let's go back to the point you just made about, well, yeah, it's been around for 20 years, but can you still make money? Or 30 years? What about a company that's had multiple quarters of consecutive growth in a recession, right? Does that make sense? I mean, if a company's growing during a time when most people are closing its doors, wouldn't that lend some credibility to it?
It would. And how do you get that information about a company?
Well, some companies within the direct selling industry are publicly traded, just like a Coca-Cola or anything. And the thing I love about that is when they are publicly traded, there's transparency, right? So don't take my word for it. You can go get every single thing that you want from our company and other ones like them, from their quarterly reports to every single ingredient in every single product that they have, to the financial statements, to whether they're in debt or not. The company I rep for has $50 million in surplus. If you go with a company that's in debt, they might not have as much money to put into supporting you and your growth, right, and training you, plus making the product amazing. So what I love about it is the transparency there. And those are really the main criteria that I really encourage you to look for when looking at something. So does that all make sense?
Yeah. So what is your company?
Great. Before I tell you that, I need to make sure that you understand that you have to have a product, Brett. And that's the other thing that kind of ties in this company. We're going to talk about product here in a second. But if you don't have a product, one that people need and people will want, you don't have a company. So the other thing to kind of look for in a company is to make sure that you have a product-based company. And what I mean by that is not necessarily that that it was just based on the product, but that the company was started because of the products and not vice versa. So would you agree that most companies start as a mastermind of guys in shirts and ties trying to figure out how to make money? Like your boss, for example, maybe he just said, yeah, I want to start a business. How can I make money?
Yeah, I actually don't know the answer to that. I don't know what percentage would start that way versus, somebody trying to create a solution for something, and the next thing you know, you've invented a hanger, and now you create a hanger company because you had to solve the problem versus sitting around trying to figure. I guess, I certainly was sitting around thinking I wanted to make money, and I was like, I can probably do it in a franchise. Which franchise do I want to do? Bojangles. Too
Sure.
expensive. I'm not going to do it.
Sure.
So I don't know, maybe 50-50. I don't know the breakdown.
But let's put it this way. No matter which the answer is, as you do your research, if you don't have a product that is good that people will continue to use, like food, for example, if you went into a franchise and you were serving burritos that gave people food poisoning every single time, would your store survive? Yeah. No. The product's no good, right? Despite how much marketing you do and how amazing it is, you've got to have a product that people use that make a difference in their lives. So whether it's created as the forefront, or whether the the idea of a hanger comes to mind just by sitting around and the need for it. Hangers are things that people need that will continue to buy, right? Because it adds value and benefit to their life. That makes sense?
It does.
Perfect. So any other questions as you kind of objectively look at a company? I know you're wondering what my company is, and I definitely get that. And I'm going to show you some things here in a second. But any other questions about what to look for in a company?
No, no, that'll make sense. Especially like what you said about transparency, it makes sense that you'd want to go with a company that's not hiding anything.
Perfect. So let's move into the next thing, the products, and I'm going to start to educate you about why to look for a product and what to look for in one.
Okay, sounds good.